Hello, this is Stories from Real Life host Melvin E. Edwards. On my weekly podcast, my guest and I share stories. They might be humorous, or educational, or surprising. The way I get them to tell their stories is by asking questions. I do my research, and then I ask them questions to make them think. Sometimes, I ask them questions that they never could have expected. Those are the best questions because of the reactions I get.
Well, if people could see me right now, they would see a big smile on my face because that's a great question.
Oh, you start right in with the tough question. Ooh, that's a good question, Melvin. Oh, no one's ever asked me that question before. That's a good one.
Tune into Stories from Real Life every Tuesday morning on your favorite podcast platform. You never know who my next guest might be, or what questions I might ask them.
There's always more to the story. Join your hosts, Dr. Eric Shaw, prosecutor Ryan Frank, writer Adrian Bonenberger, and comedian Ryan Connor as they follow up on the most recent episode of Baggage. This is Carry On.
All right, everybody, welcome to Carry On, supplemental episode to Baggage. Last episode, we had Ben, Alaska State Trooper, had some pretty wild stories. It had me thinking, I don't know if did we share any stories on that episode of us getting pulled over? Because I was thinking during that episode, man, you could speed like hell in Alaska, right? It doesn't sound like they give out tickets too much.
Right.
Right?
We should go there and speed.
Yeah.
Well, if there's no speed limit, you can't speed. You can drive quickly.
Real meta. Real meta. Getting meta with the local traffic laws.
I was driving back to Fort Drum. On leave, I think. I was on mid-tour leave, and I was listening to heavy metal music, and just like not really paying attention. And I was going like easily 100 miles an hour on I think it was 87. So between New York City and Drum, and a police car driving the opposite direction saw me and turned around and drove me down, basically. And the officer gave me a stern talking to. I was extremely apologetic. I truly had not noticed. I had a BMW at the time, and it would go very quickly without too much urging. I'm not a big speeder in general, but the state trooper, I showed him my orders, and I was very apologetic, and I felt very apologetic and embarrassed. And he let me go without even a citation. He just said, "You really gotta, That's one of two times I've been pulled over. The other time was just sort of lame, and it doesn't bear the discussing. But that time I was sort of like, I think I could probably go to prison for this. This is, so I was glad that the officer correctly exercised his discretion. And I don't remember his face, but I remember him saying "hua" and thinking to myself,
there you go. Yeah.
That was a neat bit of blubbering on my part, a neat bit of begging and, crying and really debasing myself, doing whatever I could.
I mean, I got a Marine buddy. He was speeding. I'm pretty confident it was not 100, and they put him in jail. And because he was like a out of state guy going through North Carolina. So like, one of those deals. Like, so you don't, yeah, sure. I mean, we over 100 in our jurisdiction, we ask for jail, a day in jail for every mile over 100.
So Ryan, you'll appreciate this one. And this has similar themes to Adrian's. This was the day before I was supposed to leave for college, and I was in Stafford, and I was going to Tony's where we used to work. Yeah. And same thing, was listening to crazy loud heavy metal, and I was not paying attention at all. And I was cruising down 610, and Grant, I think the top speed there was 45, 35 maybe. Yeah. And I wasn't going that fast. I was going maybe about 50. I was going about like 10 over. But I was not paying attention at all. And I pulled into the parking lot of this place that we worked to go get like a sub. And as I get out, I hear, "Freeze! Stop moving." And I'm like, "What? Holy Jesus." And this cop had picked me up probably about a mile before, and I didn't accelerate it. I wasn't running from her. I just didn't see her or hear her because I was headbanging and listening to music. And she's like, "Stop where you are right now." I'm like, What'd I do? Oh, I was speeding. I was speeding, wasn't I? And she's like, just get back in car. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And she comes up and she's like, what were you doing? And I was like, excitedly driving. And she's like, why? I'm like, I'm going to college tomorrow. Like, yeah. I'm like, I was like, I don't really, I was just excited. And I'm just going to like get lunch before I go. And I kind of walked her through it, and she was not forgiving. She was just like, I was about to shoot you. And she's like, here's your ticket. And I was like, God damn it. I got to deal with this. My mom almost ripped me a new one when I got home, just to have to like deal with this. And I didn't have to come back for, any sort of court stuff, but it was just one of these, like, one more thing over what was already kind of like a stressful big situation.
Sounds like she needed some more training too, if she was about to shoot you for that.
Yeah, skinny 18-year-old kid,
Yeah.
In the parking lot of Tony's Pizza.
I don't remember that. I'm wondering if I was working there at that time.
Probably were.
I got I got pulled over going pretty fast twice. Once on the Jersey Turnpike. I was visiting our friend Mike in New York, and I was driving back. I had a noon exam, and I was flying, and there was a cop. Like traffic, all the traffic was going about 90, and this cop was going about 95, and I'm like, I'm gonna follow him. His lights aren't on. He's not going after anything. If he's allowed to do it, we're allowed to, I guess. So I just followed him. After about 5 miles, he pulled me over, and he's like, man, you can't follow me when I'm going that fast. I'm like, I said, I'm sorry, man. Like, traffic was moving and you're going that fast. So I'm like, it must be safe because your lights aren't on. And he goes, why are you driving so fast? And I said, honestly, I have an exam at noon. And he goes, all right, man, look, just don't follow cops if they're speeding. And then he let me go. That was it. And he like wished me luck to get through the exam. So that was one. The other one I talk about in my stand-up special, Live from DC. I got pulled over also on the Jersey Turnpike, but this time in South Jersey. When I got divorce number 1, I was just driving south, and I was just very, very giddy and happy. And I'm just driving, and I have no idea how fast I'm going. I'm just listening to music. The best day of my life. And I got pulled over going 98. And the guy, it was a 55 at this part of the turnpike, and the guy he came up and he was not happy about it, right? And but then he could tell something was amiss with me, and he asked me what was going on, and I told him that I just got a divorce. And he goes, hell yeah, brother. And he shook my hand, and he tells me to have a good.
That is a true story.
Oh, it's 100% true story. 100% true story. He starts to walk back to his car, and then he comes back to me, and he goes, also, just so you know, there's a speed trap at exit 2. And it was the best thing ever. And you know what he gave? So he's like, because I pulled you over, I do have to do something because my camera has you. But what I'm going to do is just say that you were pulled over to the side of the road, like setting a new destination on your GPS, which you're technically not supposed to do on the shoulder of an interstate. So that it was like a $35 ticket, non-moving violation.
I had a good one in college, similar to that, with like as far as like the cop speed thing, and it was a weird setup. We and a bunch of friends were supposed to go skydiving in Culpeper, Virginia, and a bunch of my friends wanted to go to a party beforehand. And I was like, I mean, we're staying at the hangar beforehand. Doesn't really matter when we get there. So we can go to the party, and I'll drive us all up there. And I was like the DD for the night. And at the end of the night, there's like 5 or 6 of us piled into my Explorer, driving up from Blacksburg to Culpeper, Virginia. And I had my tires changed, and so it threw my speedometer off. And so what I thought I was going was actually like 5 or 6 miles per hour off. And I'm driving up 81, and it's 1-2 in the morning. It's like really late. And I see this cop behind me, and I'm like, I am going exactly the speed limit. I am totally fine. I am not in trouble. I had the cruise control on, and all of a sudden the lights go on. I'm like, I didn't do anything. There's like nothing I did wrong. And he comes up and he's like, you know how fast you're going? I'm like, yes, exactly 65 miles per hour. He's like, no, you're going like 72. And I'm like, oh shit. and then he looks in the car too, and he's like, why are there 6 or 7 of you in this car at 2 a.m? What the hell are you doing? And I look at him, I'm like, we're going skydiving. And he's like, what? He's like, what? It just didn't register as like that was a normal response. I'm like, yeah, we're going to Culpeper. We're staying up there, and I'm driving up there. And he's just like, just go, just get the fuck out of here. What's wrong with you people? And I was like, I never get away with speeding tickets, and that was one of the few ones that I just have that face where they're like, fuck that guy, and.
You do have that face.
I do.
Do you know about this? I just realized, Ryan, you weren't at Mason yet. It was my freshman year. It was the year before you came when I'll just say it was a car of our friends. We go into DC, took the metro from Vienna. I went because I didn't drink. And I was like, I'm trying to keep them from dying. They're going to DC with just bottles of liquor in their backpacks. They're drinking on the metro, just walking around the mall, drinking at the Lincoln Memorial. We walked from the Lincoln Memorial all the way to the Capitol. I remember at one point Anker peed on the Capitol lawn. This was when you could still go up the Capitol steps at this time, like all the way up to the steps in 98. And it was madness. I was so uncomfortable and afraid because I've never broken a rule at this point. And then we get back on the train. We drive back, still drinking. And we get to the car at Vienna, and I'm driving because I'm the only person who's sober. And we're almost back, and they said, "Can you stop at the 7-Eleven?" Sure. Pull into the 7-Eleven. They come back. The guy who owns the car, Adam, comes up to me. He goes, "Hey, we're like a mile away. I can actually drive the rest of the way." And I said, "Yeah, we're only a mile away then. Just let me drive." And he was like, I haven't had anything to drink in like 2 hours. I'm totally fine. And he's talking to me, and I'm 17 or 18. And I'm like, "Are you sure he's not slurring or anything? It's his car. We're literally going like another mile. It's like off of Braddock or something, or to 29, whatever it was. There actually was a mile of highway between there and where we were going, because he gets on the Fairfax County Parkway and gets pulled over in that 1 mile.
Oh no.
And the cop comes up and he goes, "You guys haven't been drinking, have you?" And Anker in the back seat goes, "Just orange juice." Which, come on, man. You idiot. So he obviously fails the breathalyzer, and then the cop comes back to the car, and he's like, "Okay, your friend's going to jail with me. He said that one of you has not had anything to drink, so if you blow 0, I'll let you drive the rest of the guys home." Meanwhile, I'm so afraid that even though I've never had a drink in my life at this point, I'm going to blow 0.1.
You've got a contact drug.
Yeah. I literally had that level of fear in my life at that time. So I blow 0. I get to drive back. That's the whole story. But
now here's a little story I got to tell.
This is Giants Amongst Us. It's where we share in the unique human experience, and it's where you're going to hear real stories that are told by real people just like yourself.
No matter where you're at right now or how deep a hole there is, there's always a rope to grab. It's just a matter of how you're going to use it.
And the feeling I got after I would write an incident that happened growing up, it was like the world was lifted off my shoulders, and I became addicted to that feeling.
The Jesuits will tell you, "Give me the boy from 1 to 7 and I'll show you the man." Well, the 1 to 7 for me was chaos, that ended with the death of my very dear brother.
Self-discovery isn't a destination, but a journey. And remember, there's a giant within us all. You can find us at giantsamongustus.org, and the show is also available on any one of your favorite streaming platforms. Peace.
One more hometown story, very akin to that. I was with Adam, and who was his buddy? He hung out with Hispanic guy.
Oh, Carlos.
Carlos, yes.
Oh yeah.
It was the three of us. We had been, well, I shouldn't say we. Carlos had not been drinking at all. Thank God. Adam had been drinking excessively. I had been drinking to some extent, but I also had just come back from college and had a backpack full of like 3 handles of liquor. And we had these in the car with us. And in the middle of 610, Adam is just like, pull over right now, and like throws up in front of Sam's Pizza in that gas station right there. This is the middle of town. Cop pulls up behind us. We see the lights, and I'm just like, oh my God, we're so screwed. Adam is crawling around in the gravel on the side of the road, just trying to like not fall into his own vomit. The cop comes up to the car, and he's like, hey, what's wrong with him? And I'm like, he's car sick. In my mind, I'm like, yes, very clever. Very clever. He is totally not going to see through this. And Carlos was right about to go off for boot. And so he gets out of the car and he talks with this cop. Like, I've never seen that dude was a schmoozola. Like, he really was. And he talked that cop out of like any trouble we could have got in. And I pulled Adam back up into the front seat and got in the back seat. And I was like, are we okay? We're really okay. We're like not going to jail right now. And he's like, no, man. Everything. Carlos is like, everything's cool. And I'm like, just one of those ones I didn't expect to walk away from.
Mm-hmm. This is where I'm supposed to share my stories about getting pulled over, but I'm a prosecutor, and that'd be stupid. But I do have one though that is in Mexico. Gone out. I was the DD. We'd gone out drinking in Rosaritos in the Marine Corps, and we're driving back to base, back to the States, and the kilometers per hour versus miles per hour, I screwed up. So I got pulled over. I was legitimately speeding. And it was one of those things, me and 3 other Marines. And the cop in perfect English was like, I pulled you over. I was like, was I speeding? And he goes, yeah, the kilometers per hour. A lot of Americans do it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, it's he looks in the car. He's like, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's like, it's a $40 US dollar fine. And I was like, okay. Do I? And he's like, you can go to I can arrest you, take you to the station. You can pay it. I was like, okay, officer. And it's like, is there any way I can pay the fine now, officer? He's like, yeah, US dollars. Yeah. Okay. So we had to bribe the guy, and he let me go for going probably 15 over the speed limit.
So breaking away from the stories we were just telling, in that episode, we had kind of talked about sovereign citizens, and you said you were going to tell something about us, telling about that. Can you go into more detail?
Yeah, Ryan had expressed like sovereign citizens thought it was like 2 people.
Yeah, I saw an article one time. That's
yeah, it's one of those things that like it's super fun. It's like it's fun to watch Deadwood, but I wouldn't want to live there, right? So it's fun to talk about it, but when they show up in the court, you're like, oh, this is going to be a crappy day. Like, this is not going to be fun. But it is crazier than you think it is. I thought, before I started doing prosecution, I thought sovereign citizen was the generic, just anti-government, and I just don't believe the laws apply to me. That's true, but it is so layered with the conspiracy theories and the shit they believe. It is wild.
You're telling me they're conspiracy theorists.
Yes, believe it or not. I mean, look, this episode's not that long. You can watch hours of documentaries about the history, and it's kind of like it's a little racist, religious, kind of anti-Jewish history to it, but there is no like one doctrine or anything like that. You can't like sign up for a sovereign citizenship class or anything like that.
Is this like a self-fulfilling prophecy? Like the further down the rabbit hole they go, the more kind of indoctrinated they get?
Yeah, I mean, if you believe this level of crazy, then you might believe this level of crazy and this level of crazy. Like they believe things like really are based on admiralty law, like naval law. Like we never really changed over from the law, common law from England, so that the laws that are governing us now are corporate manufactured laws that they don't have to submit to, and which is really crazy too, because they're like they would say they don't submit to the laws. They've never agreed to abide by these laws. When in human history has the requirement been that anyone agrees to abide by the laws to have the laws enforced upon them? You know what I'm saying? So it's just
by default, if you continue to live in any sort of province or nation, you by default agree to that.
Just drive through. You're telling me Canadians that are driving through don't have to abide by our traffic laws because they didn't agree to it? No, right. if you're geographically here, then you
were beholden to that Mexican. You were beholden to those Mexican cop laws there,
right? So it's this crazy layered thing about like that. There is, oh God, some of the crazier stuff. So we're based on admiralty law. Now, why is it still admiralty law and not the statutes and everything that currently govern us that we fake say do? Mm-hmm. Because if you go to a courthouse and if you look at some of the flags at courthouses, they have a gold embroidery around the edges. admiralty law.
So the conspiracy part is that they think it's that everybody, like lawyers and judges and the government, all secretly know this fact, that it's admiralty law. So it's not just that they think that like admiralty law like runs it, but that there's a bunch of people who are in on it, and they're like, well, we have to have the gold filigree around the thing, or else it's not technically.
Can't give that up, right? That has to stay.
But if they call you on it, you have to acknowledge it. You have to be like, all right, you're in. Is that kind of thing?
Exactly. And that's the whole
Wink,
thing is
wink.
like, they know the tricks. They know the tricks. And here's some of the crazier tricks, right? So they know that there are, oh my God, how do I explain the straw man? There's a straw man idea, right? That when you are born in this country, the government assigns you a social security card, a birth certificate, those kind of things. But they do it with capital letters. Aha.
Shit.
That's
Where is this going?
Don't laugh. Don't laugh. That's your corporate self. That the U.S. government has created a corporate self.
Look at Adrian.
Not the real person. This is all true. I mean, it's not true. It's what they believe. That and the
I'm
U.S.
lost.
government.
Like, I don't even get it.
The U.S.
I'm watching
government.
Severance right now, so I feel like I've got some sense of how this plot goes, but
The U.S. government, they leverage against that corporate identity, and they can estimate your potential future worth and borrow against it. So that there is this fictitious corporate corporate account that has that has millions of dollars in it, right? And there are secret ways to try to access that money. Yeah, right. You hear Sovereign Citizen, you think they just don't want to agree that they should have to stop speeding, right? No, it's way more layered than that. So they'll say crazy shit when they show up to court, and they'll be like, "I am, let's see, how do they put it? I'm the person referred to as Ryan Christopher Frank. I am the real person staying in the entity of the corporate person." And all, like, if they say the right words the right way, then they don't submit. Because one thing you can't do is you can't say, "I understand." You can't tell a law enforcement officer or a judge, "I understand," because what that means is it would be interpreted as I am under the standing of you as an authority figure to have legal rights over me. Boom.
Wow.
Once you do that, you have now submitted to the laws. They got you. They got you.
What a
so as long as you never do that, you're okay.
Pedantry and sophistry.
As much as I want to hear more about their crazy, I actually want to more hear about how do judges respond to this.
When I first started, and when judges hadn't seen it, the secret's out now. They all kind of know how to deal with it. I think they actually I know they do. They get trainings, and we do too, how to deal with it. I saw a judge one time get into a back and forth for about 10 minutes about trying to explain how, yes, we're based off of English common law, but then the Constitution, and just tried to explain, like, in a few minutes, American legal history.
Did that make any difference at all?
Of course it did not. Of course it did not. It's just they just responded what they refer to. This is the real term, quantum grammar. You have to use quantum grammar.
Fuck does that mean?
You got to say the right things the right way. Don't put your names in capital letters, or you submit to it. So all of this feeds into their rationale of, there is money that the government has that's mine, that I never agreed that they could have my money because it's in my corporate identity. So it's my money. So it justifies them. They won't pay taxes. They won't abide by the traffic laws. They won't pay fines.
Okay, so it's a not paying taxes thing. That's
a huge part
it usually comes around to racism or not paying taxes.
Well, he did say there's an anti-Semitic undertone, right? Like all the conspiracy theorists.
It's taxes.
I've seen it across races and religions and things like that. So, I mean, people justify, their motivations however well, but it is really complex, and it's super crazy.
I feel like
if you use red ink has a significance. That's a rejection of something. If you sign in red ink, that's okay.
I did not love school. And so when, like, anytime there's some new, like, I got to do homework to figure something out. Like, this is the thing that I don't really enjoy about new video games too, where it's like, oh, I gotta, like, they've got a new system. Like, I hate this. I do not enjoy this. But but organizing your life, like turning it, basically upending your life to become a sovereign citizen and have to learn all that stuff.
I think for a lot of these people, it's just a natural step.
Man, like just don't pay taxes. Rich people don't pay taxes. It's actually easier than you thought.
Even more successful.
All this nonsense.
Exactly. Start an LLC, dude. I mean, you can hide that shit. It's fine. But no. So how do judges deal with it? You just kind of ignore it basically, and they shut them down with like, okay, if you don't stop talking, I'll hold you in contempt, because they just rattle off about the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta, that's cool. Constitution, super shady. Magna Carta, cool. It's weird. It's a weird thing. But when you get those people in court, I really feel for the prosecutors. Like, what's going on tomorrow? You have court. He's like, yeah, I got a jury trial with a sovereign citizen. Oh man, that's just going to be painful.
But at the end of the day, they're just blatantly wrong, and you guys are representatives of the government and real authority. Like, why doesn't that just steamroll over them, or is it just more of an annoyance?
At this point, it's an annoyance. I mean, it's never been successful. There's no point in history where it ever worked, and it always ends up with a worse deal for them.
No,
because they walk themselves into contempt charges, they walk themselves into obstruction charges, they walk themselves into probation violations for noncompliance. I mean, it's never a benefit.
It just reinforces all their thoughts.
Right. Now, I've seen people start as sovereign citizens, and then they're like, this is not going well for me. And they end the case as a penitent.
An American citizen?
Yes. What gets me home? Got it. I'm that person. I'm the corporate whatever. Get me the hell out of here. Yeah. Oh, man. So
that seems like a good place to put a pin in it and go to the bathroom, huh?
We'll see you guys next time.
Cool. Sounds great.
Adios.
Music for Baggage provided by Quincy Ledbetter. You can find his stuff at qledbetter.com. Graphics provided by Megan Weaver. You can find her at meganweaverart.com. Special thanks to our premium members for their support. You can become a premium member by clicking subscribe in your Apple Podcast app, or by visiting thebaggagepodcast.com/support to sign up or to gift a membership to someone. A percentage of all proceeds go to charity. If you have any questions, comments, or a good story to share, please email us at thebaggagepodcast@gmail.com.
The Baggage Podcast, which of these four people has encountered a cryptid, and which cryptid did they encounter?
Now, Ryan Frank, one of the two Ryans, he's already a fan of our show, Mondo Frico Podcast, so we have to be nice to him. And he's an attorney, so he works in buildings, right?
Right, yeah.
I'm not thinking cryptid. I'm thinking he's seeing some sort of a haunting. And if we do the typical haunting, it's the woman in white that travels to the courthouse, maybe seen occasionally by the night watch person. But I think Frank might have caught a glimpse of her once in a while.
She's like an old file clerk that had been there. Started when the courthouse, before it was built.
Mm-hmm. Did she die in a filing accident?
Filing cabinet fell on her, yeah.
She started loading the top drawer first, and then she pulled it open too far.
Yeah, poor Marge. Where's Marge? And where's my files?
Mondo Frico Podcast.